Hello and welcome. This is That'll Do Squig, and today we're taking an in-depth look at one of my favorite teams. In fact, probably my third favorite team, if I should say, the Plague Marines. Plague Marines, you say, but they are compendium. Don't they suck? They're not the best, but they're not the worst either. So, here's why they're number 3 for me. Numero uno. Reason. They are fun. Yeah, have you ever rolled for Disgustingly Resilient? Have you ever? Really? 20 dice, maybe, sometimes, that you're just rolling all at once, hoping for 5s and 6s? Yeah, it is pretty fun to roll a lot of dice, and hope that you live. So, I like rolling just handfuls of dice when you're taking a ton of damage, because you never know. You never know, and it's fun. We'll get more into that in a second. Resilient is pretty cool, but also it is a tanky team because of that. So with this team, I like to grab an area, control said area, and win said game. So let's dive into it, really. So we mentioned Disgustingly Resilient, and the reason that it is so good is not just because you can live through stuff, but because it is unpredictable for both you and your opponent. Now, for you, that kind of sucks sometimes how unpredictable it is, but it's even worse for your poor opponent. Because now, do they have to reroll that other dice or not? They might need to. So I find a lot of the time when playing as Plague Marines that your opponent will probably waste a reroll or two just hoping that they get enough to secure, quote-unquote, that kill. And sometimes, by the way, it still won't be enough. They'll say, no, you won't have a chance of rolling, 6 out of 8 dice at 5 out of 5 over. But you can. I'll be the first one to tell you. It can happen. So, Disgustingly Resilient, those 5-up saves. By the way, if you're using the Icon Bearer, then you can also reroll the 1s and 2s. Oh my goodness, it makes it so good. So, those are awesome. It's also a 6 model team with 3 APL. With 2 gunners, neither of which is truly heavy. One is called the Heavy Gunner, but he doesn't have the restriction that a lot of heavy gunners have. So he can still move and shoot, which you need because this team's slow. We'll get into that, though. Also, their equipment is decent, and it helps get around some of their weaknesses. And we'll talk about their bell in a moment, which is going to help us with that. Also, good archetype. So security wants you to control an area, and that's what we want to do with some Plague Marines. You can also try and get yourself some Seek and Destroy with this team, but personally, I'm big on security. They are also pretty easy to play. With only 6 models, there's not too much to worry about. You're going to generally push, control, take, and sit. That's the fun part of Plague Marines. And then you just sit back and you pray for those good rolls. This is definitely a dice roll team. If you have bad rolls, you're going to get screwed with this team. You need to make some of these Disgustingly Resilient rolls, and you need to make some of your saves. But you're Space Marine, you got some good saves. And then at the end of the day, if you really don't like Plague Marines, you can just say, screw it, and start running them as Legionnaires, because they're good. Legionnaires, however you want to say it. I always say it wrong, so I never know which one it is. But why are they bad? Why don't people like the Plague Marines? Well, I mentioned it. Everybody knows it. They're slow. They're really slow. A lot of turns, especially like turn 1 and 2, you're probably going to use 2 of that 3 APL to move and dash, because you're only going to be moving 4 for the most part, and then dashing the 3. So you're barely getting over regular movement even when you're doing that. So yeah, they can be pretty slow. What else? They also have nothing amazing to spend their CP on. So you end up using a lot of rerolls. There's a couple things we'll talk about that you can use their CP on, but I would say probably at least half I'm using just for rerolls. Also, because they're compendium, there's no special tac ops and super cool rules for them, unless you're talking about the Disgustingly Resilient, which is a super cool rule. And they just don't have the variety of legionaries. So yeah, that's why they kind of suck. So let's get into the team itself and why should you play it and how are you going to play it when you do. So first things first, how are we playing this team? We're going to stay alive. That's the big thing. We want to stay alive longer than your opponents can. So your CP will be used for defensive rerolls a lot of times or their ploys. So we are aiming for points first and kills second. They're going to have a hard time killing us, so let's make it as annoying as possible. It's alright if half your team is still unconcealed at the end of second turning point, as long as you've scored a few primaries and are in position for all the strange security tac ops that you'll be using. So again, we're going with security. I generally prefer hold them back, central control, and center line. All of these force your opponent to move in and fight you if they want to take you off of these points, and it doesn't need you to go that far into their side of the board. You also don't have to chase anybody like you might have to with, say, Seek and Destroy. So it lets you play your own game a little bit more. And that way, when they move to us, that's how we can get the kills and take control of the board as we need to. But we're not chasing. No, you're not chasing with this team. No, we moving, we staying, we holding our ground. So that's what you're kind of looking for with the Plague Marines. As far as the team build goes, all operatives, replacing the fighter with a second warrior when on open board. So you're basically using everything, except I usually don't use the fighter, to be honest. Even sometimes on Into the Dark, I won't use him. He is good, so sometimes on Into the Dark, when it comes to fighting, he's good to have, but his charge isn't very good with his limited movement. So, and again, it's hard for him to get into position. It's a lot easier to just have a warrior that can sit back with a long-range bolt gun and perhaps shoot twice. Yeah, maybe. So, but pretty simple team build. Really not that hard to put together. Let's dive into the equipment a little bit more specifically. I said they had decent equipment before, but numero uno, thing that you have to buy with the Plague Marines, the Plague Bell. Yes, this is most important. So we're going to use 3 points right off the bat. Boom, get a Plague Bell. This allows people near your Plague Bell, after it's been activated, to move normal. Yep, we're going to spend 3 points just to have some people move normally. So I generally have one of my warriors with this, and he's just kind of my tether boy. So you need it. You got to have it just so you can move normally for a turn or two, because he's probably going to die. What else we got here? We got crack grenades, so we gonna get one of them as well. So we're gonna use another 3 points, leaving us down to 4. So now we're either getting a blight grenade for 2, so get a little bit more AoE damage, and or spending points on either virulent rounds and or mephitic toxins. The rounds make guns and bolts crit 1 higher, and the toxins add 1 to the normal damage of each plague knife. So I usually find myself getting the blight grenade and 2 of the rounds, making the bolt guns on those rounds stronger, guns stronger. Generally 1 on each warrior. But even if you don't use the grenade, it's scary. People don't like grenades on your guys, and I like to use. Some people don't, but I like to use the little circular, tokens to show that my guy has a grenade. Some people would just be like, that guy has a grenade, which is confusing sometimes. But let's play a little mind games here. Again, we need everything we can with Plague Marines. So just having that little token next to your guy with a grenade kind of makes him a target, or makes your opponent be a little bit more careful around him. So just keep that in mind. So yeah, get yourself some grenades. Get yourself the crack. I would go with the other little grenade, the blight grenade as well, and just make your guns go a little bit pew pew, a little bit better. So that's it. Easy to play, easy equipment. Let's get a little bit more into the team and how I build it up too. So just so you don't got to think about nothing today. The leader, we're going with the champion. Surprise, surprise. Gotta go Power Fist, cause it's cool. But yeah, 5 attacks hitting on 3s. 5/7 brutal is badass. Uses a 6-inch plasma pistol. hitting on 2s. AP2 when it's hot. And we're going hot always with the Disgustingly Resilient, by the way, because why not? He's got 13 health, saves on 3s. Short range beast of the team. I usually pair him with the Icon Bearer, allowing him to get some nice rerolls, and we'll see about that just a second as we dive into the Icon Bearer. Yeah, this is the secret badass of the team. Not gonna lie, he is awesome, and his positioning is really important. His buff allows rerolls of 1s and 2s on resilience, as long as they're within 3 of him, and of course he sees himself, by the way. So yeah, he does have to be close to his buddies. But man, that is crazy. Being able to reroll your 1s on 2s. Holy hell. So all of a sudden you're going to save almost double. It's almost like 1.5 more. Or is it 1.16 more? It's more. You're going to save a lot more. I love my Icon Bearer. So not only that, but he's also an Icon Bearer. So you have the extra basically pseudo AP on him when it comes to objective points. Then you also have the ability, the CP ploy, dig in, which is the only thing that I really use him with, use on him, and that makes him just a tank because it allows him to save on 2s. So you suddenly have like a 12 health model, meh, saving on 2s, awesome, and then saving his damage on 5s and 6s from Disgusting Resilient, but now he's also rerolling those 1s and 2s. And don't forget, now he counts as 4 APL for that objective. Whew. So you're not gonna get him off of an objective very easily. You can, but it's gonna be tough. So yeah, that's the move. You move him somewhere, you pop both his Icon ability that gets the rerolls on the 1s and 2s. And if you don't need to attack, you don't need to fight, you don't need to shoot, use dig in, and he will just sit on that point. And people are going to have a hard time getting him back from him. Next up, our gunner. This is the regular gunner, not the quote-unquote heavy gunner. And we have 2 awesome choices here, either Plasma or Melta. Plasma's king, right? Well, sometimes, most of the time. Melta is badass and instantly deletes many units. But with the slowness that is the Plague Marines, it can be very hard to get him within 6 inches to make that shot. Now on ITD, yeah, Melta's a little bit easier. But yeah, otherwise, we're going Plasma all day, every day. And again, we going hot because, yeah, you might roll a 1. You might take 3 damage. But you get to roll Disgustingly Resilient on that. So you're probably going to only take 2. Yeah, right, that's the math. So, yeah. Generally, I'm taking Plasma. But sometimes it's fun to take a Melta and just turn a corner and just melt a face. That's why it's a Melta, right? Right. Good coffee. Next up, the Heavy Gunner. The Heavy Gunner is a myth with this team, as neither gun actually has heavy. Crazy, right? As above, I generally take the Plague Launcher with its greater range and AP1 over the short range Turret 2 that hits on 2s. Maybe against a Horde team or Into the Dark, that might be a little bit better. But I'd say the Plague Launcher is the choice 9 out of 10 times. Alright, and then we have our Warrior, or quote-unquote Warriors in most games. For the last 2 picks, I generally do go with 2 Warriors for their long-range bolt guns. It also allows us to use their Shoot Twice ploy without feeling too bad about only half of our team having bolt guns, because it's really just going to be your generally your Icon Bearer and your 2 Warriors that are going to have bolt guns, because your leader's going to have the plasma pistol, your gunner's probably going to have a plasma gun, and then your heavy gunner is probably going to have the what was it, the Plague Launcher? Yeah, Plague Launcher is what it is. So at least now, if you use the Shoot Twice ability, you have half your team getting it. If you have 2 Warriors with long range bolt guns, and you can get some good use out of that. Even though you're slow, you can shoot across the board. However, the big important thing is that one of these guys is going to be equipped with that plague bell. So we mentioned that a little bit earlier, but it's really important. Because from that point on, he is your 6-inch tether monkey. As long as you've activated his bell, anyone who starts their activation within 6 inches of him gets the benefit. So you're generally activating him and then moving him or leaving him next to models that will activate next. That way, they will move a whopping 6 inches. Whoa, aka the regular movement. It's important though. It's really important. So yeah, it really does. It's crazy how much an inch or two makes in the game, but like it's super important. And again, it still works for himself. So getting good with this and its placement is one of the most quote unquote important things with this team. Like once you kind of get that down, it's really handy. However, if you play the same person with this team a lot, they'll start to realize like how important it is for you to have this tether monkey running around with your team. So a lot of the times your opponents will go for this guy pretty quickly because they'll figure out, hey, man, he's moving like a normal Space Marine now. What's going on over here? Tether monkey. And then of course we have that crack grenade that we were talking about earlier as far as equipment goes. I'll usually throw one of these probably on the other warrior, and that just gives you threats across the board. So every single unit now has something that they're doing that is dangerous or helpful, and that's important. We don't want anybody to really suck on an elite team. That can happen with Vet Guard. You need your crap guys. This team, they all got to be superheroes. So last but not least, we do have the fighter ability, or option, I should say. But I don't usually take the fighter unless I'm against like a melee heavy team on Into the Dark. But usually he's just too slow to get him where I need him. So yeah, fighter. I have the model. He cool. Actually, I really like the fighter model that I have. But you just don't get there usually, buddy. Wish you could play more. Alright, so let's get into like starting the game. How are we playing this game? So starting the game, like I said, we are generally going to choose recon when it comes to our scouting phase. So we're going to choose to dash someone because we need to we need to get a little bit more movement. So you're choosing the recon option. You might also consider changing your order as well. You most likely won't need another barricade. You are a barricade. So yeah, that dash is probably your best bet most of the time, just so that you can at least start to contest an objective or two. Some maps are going to be better for you, and some missions are going to be better for you than others. Loot is really rough on this team just because you're already spending most of your actions getting to the point. Sometimes you won't have the ability to tap it after you've maybe shot, charged, fought, who knows, whatever. But yeah, so heads up, it's a little bit tougher on some maps. But generally we're going to start off by dashing somebody forward. I generally go with all of my units aside from my plasma gunner and maybe the heavy gunner on conceal. The first turn, again, we're just kind of moving into position. We're getting closer so we can get shots, but we still want to pose some sort of a threat. So there's some things that your opponent doesn't want to get shot at, and the two big ones are probably your plasma gunner and your heavy gunner. Your leader as well, but you're not going to be able to get that close unless they charge you turn one. So your goal versus uber fast teams is to take what you can and prepare shots for the others. So your opponent might get more primaries than you on turn 1 and 2. That's okay, but if you've killed a chunk of their team by turn 3, those primaries will be a lot harder for them to get, and you might be able to come back on both turn 3 and 4. So yeah, basically get the few points you can while being defensive and try to flip the game. Turning point 3. So basically here's what you're doing. Turning point 1 is for getting a few points and getting into position. You can go 50-50 if you're doing amazing. If they get 40 or 2, just aim for 3-3 next turn. Turning point 2, keep what you have. Try to get some kills, attack op or 2, and at least start to set yourself up for them. if you can't get attack ops. So if you can't get, for example, like I said, we're going security with most of this. If you can't get to that center line this turn, or you don't have enough, CP to take it, now is where you're getting ready for the next turn to do it. Turn 3, push them primers, attack ops, and aim for more kills. This is where you absolutely have to start scoring some of your stuff. If you're not, you're going to lose. Because we're generally, remember, behind at this point. So this is where you have done some kills, you've started to get ready, and now, boom, we're getting them points. And turn 4, you go all out, baby. You just going for it. This might be risky, but hopefully you can out APL contested objectives and finish out all your tac ops. That's really a big thing. Your tac ops are probably going to be easier for you to score with this team than some of the primaries. Again, some turns you're probably only going to get to the primaries. You just so slow. That's how it is. So, again, most CP is going to be used defensively. Disgusting and Resilient is awesome, but it's only good while you're alive. So if you might need to spend a CP for a reroll defensively, try it. It might make a huge difference. Because now your guy, instead of being dead, is at 4 health. And when your opponent goes to shoot him with his 3/4 weapon, suddenly they need a little bit more to hit. You need to lose more on your saves for them to effectively kill you. It really makes a huge difference. So stay alive. Otherwise, malicious volleys can be a little useful, and again, part of the reason we take 2 warriors with bolt guns on them. Hateful Assault is cool, but your units generally can't charge very far, and won't intentionally be fighting a lot. You'll fight, but somebody else will probably hit you. Contagion is weird. Making others injured is nice, but they have to be near you, so hard to make it work sometimes. Otherwise, Effluent Demise is kind of bad, unless the opponent unit has 1 health left, or if they have a few with 1 health left. Then it's good, I guess, but just useful in niche situations. Same for Revolting Durability. Changing a crit to a regular can be enough to keep you alive, but that's a lot for a CP, so thus keeping your units behind cover can basically guarantee you a crit save if you have a free CP with this team, but again, we're hoping that we're staying alive otherwise. And I rarely use Dig In, allowing an operative to save on 2, because it also costs an AP, which is kind of bullshit. However, in a few cases, like I mentioned with the Icon Bearer, it can make your unit just a real tank. So can be good, but a lot of the time, like, you're already being shot at before you get to use it. So hard to say. I would love to see a new Plague Marine team come out, but at the same time, I do play this team all the time, and I love it. I do all right with this team. It's definitely not like my tournament team by any means. But if I just really, honestly, if I want to have a fun game, I'll play Plague Marines. I don't have to think too much. 6 guys, cool. 3 APL each, so they each can do stuff. Enough thinking with the team with the whole tether monkey thing, as well as the Icon Bearer being close to your guys to let them reroll those 1s and 2s. That's kind of my focus on the game. So it does still give me something to think about, which I like on playing. So I would implore you to try Plague Marines a shot. When it comes to making the team, it's really cheap and easy as far as most teams go. You can get the whole team out of 1 box. A lot of times you can find like 6 guys off of eBay for less than $30, so you can do it even cheaper, and you can just, for the most part, say like, hey, this is my warrior, this is my leader, and most people would be selling that group anyway. Like 10th edition came out a few months ago, and right now Plague Marines kind of suck in 10th, so it's pretty easy to find some Plague Marines up on eBay right now. So now is the time. If you want to try some Plague Marines, get on eBay, find somebody that's rage quitting 10th edition Plague Marines and give them a shot. But just run them like this. Don't run them with the stupid zombie dudes. I forget what they're even called right now. Just run the 6 Plague Marines. So you're, running out there, shooting them up, and getting shot at, but not dying. That's what you want to do. And like I said, the first time that you pick up, 15 to 20 dice for disgustingly resilient rolls, yeah, it feels good, man. It feels good. The first time that you have like 8 damage coming at you with like 6 health left, and you save like 7 of the 8, it's gonna feel so good. You look down at all those 5s and 6s, and you just smile at your opponent, and they just a tear drops out of their face. It won't happen a lot. It might never happen for you, but if it does, it feels good. So give me a try. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.